Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Strangers from Hell, also known as Hell is Other People, which is probably a more accurate description or title for this. A South Korean television series from 2019 that is 10 episodes long, with each episode lasting about 60 minutes each. So the apartment complex is introduced as being hell on earth right from the beginning. And this hellish situation was created by a group of people. Now we see a dude get thrown through a door, knocked out, and dragged up some stairs. After that, we go into flashback mode. Now right from the start, we get a feel for our protagonist. You know, he's a guy, runs into some bad luck when his computer gets smashed. Then he plays a game of chance to win another computer. And it's an interesting way to start the show. I liked it. He's definitely a very cheap individual who spends as little money as possible on everything. Then he goes apartment hunting, okay? And he chooses the complex that will be the location of hell on earth. So I think I calculated that this apartment is $160 per month. That is absurd, okay? Now the apparent reason for the low price is that this area is going to be redeveloped in 6 months. But still, okay. Apartment is actually the wrong terminology here, because it's basically a small room that's the size of a closet. It's almost as small as a capsule hotel in Japan. It's about that small, a little bigger. So it's a pretty tiny place, okay? The funny thing is that our protagonist runs into 3 weirdos before he even checks into his room. And the facilities are pretty terrible, with almost no privacy to speak of. Now, as you could probably tell, he's going to regret this decision. Now, the opening episode does a nice job setting everything up. The guy's entire life is frustrating and awkward, you know, despite the fact that he himself is rather normal. Could be any one of us, okay? Now, practically every person he interacts with in his life is frustrating to deal with. Not only is he dealing with, like, the creepy, possibly violent neighbors within the apartment complex he's in, or residence, but his work life is also miserable. Like, his immediate supervisor is insufferable, and the owner of the business has a tendency of insulting our protagonist through, like, subtle means. He always takes, like, these smug jabs at him, you know? And then on top of that, our protagonist is constantly trying to have dinner with his girlfriend, but is constantly being postponed due to various events outside of his control. I mean, this show creates so much frustration for the protagonist and the viewer while you're watching it that it becomes claustrophobic in some sense. It's almost like claustrophobic in terms of not just his apartment or his residence or room, but also is just his life in general, you know? But the neat thing is that this frustration is gradually relieved as the show progresses. That's how this works. So if you think this show is too frustrating to watch during the opening half, you know, the opening 4 or 5 episodes, just stick with it. This K-drama wants you to feel that way for a reason. And the main theme and concept of the show is not introduced or developed until, like, the later episodes. And it's pretty fascinating stuff. I did not see that angle coming when I started the show. Meanwhile, our female lead is a lady cop who is investigating an abnormally high amount of cat killings in the area. It is insinuated early on that one of the residents of this hellish apartment complex is the one committing these animal killings. So, at times, I found her story elements or segments to be even more interesting than the lead character, especially during the earlier episodes, because she's investigating details surrounding these, you know, these psychos that live in the apartment. She kind of ends up finding leads to there, okay? So we have 2 separate storylines that kind of converge, so it's cool stuff. Strangers from Hell does have some creepy moments, as well as some violence. It does avoid jump scares in terms of its scares, so I like that. There's a certain slow burn intensity to this that works. I think it's, you know, the psychological thriller elements are quite good here. There are kind of multiple endings stacked up against each other at the end, but I think the one that they settled on was probably the one that I liked the most. So even though they do cheat a bit in terms of forensic science, I think they cheat a little bit at times with that, but it's all right. You know what I mean? It's a pretty satisfying conclusion. Now, there are a few aspects of the show that I thought could have been improved. All of the cops are entirely useless, with the exception of our lady cop protagonist. She's pretty good. There are multiple times in this show, listen to this, where a detective or a cop will disappear and their colleagues don't even care or don't bother to follow up. Like, I mean, come on, guys. It's bad writing, okay? I mean, Korea needs to stop portraying cops as complete morons who don't care about their jobs. Like, you've been doing it for 20 years now. You need to stop, all right? It's just lazy script writing. And you could easily fix this and exclude it from the script. Just make our lady cop protagonist be the detective. You know what I mean? On the investigation. Instead, they make her like a street patrol cop, and she needs to like constantly try to convince her superiors to investigate. And of course, they just don't care because they don't feel like doing their jobs because it's a Korean film or television series. It just, their writing just needs to stop. Stop it. Also, I hated the girlfriend character so much in this. Like, I know she's written that way to add to the frustration to our male protagonist, but she is a complete moron who provides zero support for this guy. Like, this is your boyfriend, you wench. She refuses to listen to what he's saying for more than a few seconds. And instead of trying to understand, like, what he's going through, she just, like, gets mad and just walks away from him. You know what I mean? She has, like, it's unbelievable. Like, if I were this guy, I would just dump her immediately. She has no common sense whatsoever. Oh, these people in your apartment aren't strange. Wrong. You know what I mean? Oh, your boss who's constantly hitting on me and wanting to hang out with me in the middle of the night, he has no interest in me romantically. Wrong. You know, this woman is just unreal. I mean, there are points in the show where characters will actually tell her what's going on, and she still fails to understand anything. This has to be one of the worst girlfriend characters I have ever seen in a K-drama. It's not like she's evil or anything. She's just useless as a human being. It actually reached a point where I just did not care if she lived or not. That's how bad it got. And I seriously doubt that's what the show was going for. So they definitely screwed something up with her development. But those are really the only gripes I have with the show. Outside of those few problems, I very much enjoyed Strangers from Hell. It's a very effective look at how other people can make your life miserable. You know, it's definitely worth watching, especially considering how it's only 10 hours long, which is pretty short for a typical K-drama. It's currently available on Netflix in the United States. I recommend it. And as always, I'll see you next time.